Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
You're the first but not only person. Are you in your car? That's cool.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to be heading to work as soon as I leave here. So
Okay, no problem. Hope your connection is good. Hello, Lucy.
Hi.
Hey. So, Lara, where are you in the world?
Laura, I'm in Phoenix, Arizona in the US.
Cool. And Lucy is somewhere in Norway, I think.
Sweden.
Sweden.
So
Yeah.
very different to how it must be in Arizona right now. We have about 2 meters of snow outside still.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm longing for some warmth and sunshine.
Yeah, I don't think there's any snow in Arizona. Well, somewhere probably, maybe. There are some mountains somewhere. Is there? I forgot if there are mountains in Arizona. Hello, Anna.
Hi, Anna.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
Hey. Hello, Ron.
Hi, Fleming, everyone.
Hi.
Okay, so,
Let's see.
and who else?
Hey,
Hello.
good morning.
Hello, Peter. How are you?
Hey, I'm fine. How are you, Fleming?
Good.
Yeah,
Meet my friends.
okay. Let me go to another screen and meet your friends. How do I do that?
Well, probably you just slide to the side. Then you can
Slide to the side. I like that. Hey,
see.
there.
There they are. You can see at least 4 at a time.
I see 6, including myself.
Okay, then we're good. That's what we are. There might be more.
Coming
So,
and going.
okay, so it's good. So today the idea is to go deep into what one particular person is saying. Like we try something different each time, a different kind of experiment, and often we use something to sort of start with, and then we end up somewhere else, which is always good. Hello, Harry.
Hi.
And actually, it's Harry's suggestion we're following a little bit. Harry was also the instigator of the last experiment. Maybe you didn't know that. This time you suggested something else, like what I think at the end of the last time, like what if we actually really took time to sort of listen to one person and find out what are they really saying, what's really going on for them. And not that we argue very much here, but it also means sort of not to think of arguments against what they're saying and what you think that's sort of contrasting to theirs, but to try to really get what one person is saying and going deeper into it and focusing for long enough to think we get it. And we can start anywhere. Like if somebody has, for example, a controversial opinion or something like that, or a little story about yourself or a certain way you see things, we could start with that and try to get it if one of us was a volunteer. Or we can just start talking about random things, and then one of those things might be interesting to us and we want to get deeper into that. It could go either way.
Tonight, I'm going to a makerspace meeting. Anybody know what a makerspace meeting is?
Yeah. We have a Fab Lab in Toulouse also, but yeah, some of the others might not know it. So it's with 3D printers, and where gearheads like Peter will invent clever things or make things. It could be anything. But yeah, tell us a little about it, Peter.
Techno-theologian. Tech head?
Well, that's a
Techno-theologian.
I like that. That's a good
A little
word. Yeah.
closer to the point, you know?
Okay.
And how to affect change through technology. That
Okay.
seems to be what we're doing here. in this little circle of friends.
Yeah.
How does the
With
theology
makerspace,
come in? How does the theologian come into it?
oh, well, we want to make the world a better place, and that's kind of a godly thing. So us being representatives of the almighty power that be, we're all techno-theologians by virtue of our being here, as long as your intent is to do good.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Does that answer your question, Anna?
Well, it does, but it's a very top-down concept of doing good. And maybe, as Fleming said, we shouldn't actually question what you're saying, but rather find out what you want to say. So maybe I should try and ask you what theologian really means to you.
Actually, we were talking about makerspaces. So
Yeah.
a makerspace is where people come together to create in concert or to go for mentoring or exposure to new tools and new things. So that's what tonight is about. And for me, it's almost a religious experience because I go to meet kindred spirits, creative people. There aren't very many creative people that I'm in touch with here in pretty stagnant New Jersey. So for me, it's a great escape. I look forward to Wednesdays where the creative lives in this one little maker space where people come together to share their projects. Do I have anything close at hand? Here's my 3D printer stuff. This is an iPad amplifier. Believe it or not, your iPad emits sound from the sides. So this will fit over the edge of your iPad and redirect the sound out this port.
Brilliant.
So it goes
Brilliant.
right in front
Yeah.
of you. Now I have an iPhone, so I made the same thing with my iPhone, and it even has the cutout for the home button. 3D printing. Now it's not all. Let's see, what else do I have around that's 3D printed? I'll show you something really neat.
Peter's really excited about it.
I am. I'm really excited about it because you can dream about something and then have it come out the other end in short order. This is a music-loving elephant.
Toot.
And he glows in the dark.
So Peter, I'd like to sort of understand how to get into it. Like I really personally really like the makerspace idea and the Fab Labs and people all being inventors, and it's totally up my alley. What's that? It's a glass.
A nice shape. It's a holder for something. For
Okay.
a pen.
I thought it was something else, but the what I'd like to know. I mean, I've sort of wanted to enter into maker spaces. We have a Fab Lab in Toulouse, and I've gone several times, and I'm always inspired. And I have actually a 3D printer, which I haven't finished putting together, and I'm a little bit embarrassed about that. So even though it's totally like my kind of thing, I haven't taken time to sort of invest the time to really step into it. So I'm wondering how. I mean, I don't know what I'm asking even. What is it that makes it flow for you? I mean, you show up every Wednesday and other people are making other things and you have problems and discuss them with others. So how does it work?
You go there and you can either check out the scene to see what else people are doing or dive into using the equipment there, which is one of the main reasons I go. They have a very expensive laser printer that will cut things like wood and etch on plastic. In fact, the pieces of your 3D printer were probably cut with a laser. So I go there for that. I go there for the advice of people who might comment on things I want to make and suggest things. So it's really a brain trust as well as a creative trust and access to equipment. It's a wonderful thing.
Okay, so does that would that work for sort of any of us? I mean, if you're already sort of good at making things and a little bit of a tinkerer, it's sort of the perfect thing.
You
But
don't
what?
even have to be a tinkerer, because there's a website called Thingiverse that you can go to, and there are pre-made things that people make and companies make that they make available for you to download the file, which you load in your 3D printer, and it just prints it right out. You don't have to do any designing. I happen to love the design process, so I'm good at using 3D CAD and computer-aided design and modeling stuff. So for me, it's like giving birth. I think I've mentioned this before here. It's like, you conceive, you have the conception, then you go into the ideation, the gestation period, which is in the computer, and then the birth is out of the printer. And it all happens within a matter of an hour or so. So it's like instant gratification from dream to thing.
Okay. Peter, may I ask, how does it fit in your, what you said earlier about improving the world?
Well, I'll show you. You can come into a school with a bunch of 3D printed stuff. And if one of the things you happen to show the kids is like what I'm about to show you, then you will have achieved that end of making the world a better place by sensitizing them to the idea that, hey, there's something else going on besides all the gunshots and the violence, because people are concerned about peace and love. So here we go. Here's my little peace and love thing. Let me see if I can get this to turn around for you. Turn around, baby. There it is. We need more love in the world. What part of the world we want to focus on? Well, let's see. This is my 3D printed heartwave mandala.
Wow.
This is just a rubber ball with the world printed on it. And it just so happens to fit in the hole. And curiously enough, when I move the mandala, there's just enough contact with what's below to move the ball.
Lovely.
Unexpected serendipity.
Really?
Are you a teacher, Peter?
Excuse me?
Are you a teacher?
Am I a teacher? Yes. Not officially.
You go into schools?
No, I
Not
don't do that. I'd like to do that. I'm looking for opportunities to do that. To take my creativity and bring it into schools and other places. Actually, I'd like to have an after-school place where people can come in and get creative. That's what my whole world is about. So
Right.
after the rigors of school and the forced education, then you would come into a place I call Creativity Cafe to make music with people, to play games, to explore what other people in other parts of the world are doing via connections like this.
Which part of the world do you live?
I'm in
Where do you live?
East Coast of US, New Jersey.
Peter, how did you get, was the elephant a template from somebody else?
Exactly.
How did you get it so smooth? I've seen 3D printed items and they seem a little not smooth.
Well,
Layers down.
it depends on the material. It depends on the settings of the machine. It depends on the output stage, how you set it. It can be high resolution or low resolution, so that each layer is either thick or thin. And if you have thick layers, because what happens is something gets built up over time, like this. I don't know if you can see it. Let's see, no, there's not enough detail to see the layers. Each one of the things I make is done in layers that build on each other. So it gets smooth when it's a higher resolution. But I've never seen anything really chunky, ugly, unless it's the material that sometimes is used for support, because you can't print overhanging things. It's either straight up or at a minimal angle. But if you go too steep an angle, then you need support, or the plastic will just melt and fall over and destroy the print. So that could be what you're referring to, is the support material that is all jaggy and hard to remove once the print is finished. Then you need to remove all of this stuff, and they make it so that it's easy, kind of easy to remove, but it takes a lot of afterwork for making it smooth, trimming and filing and cutting, and it's a pain in the butt. So you try to maximize the ability to print things without support, which is, go ahead.
Well, I have another question too.
Sure.
It occurs to me that you could get a little lizard, you know, from Walgreens for about 39 cents. So is this like, are you experimenting? Is that part of your experiment? Is it merely the love of the art? Are these experiments to further 3D printing, you know, the knowledge of 3D printing, or, you know what I mean? I'm trying to equate that in your mind, how that comes out.
All of the above. I mean, each time I make a print, I learn something. You know, is the bed horizontal enough? Is the back end, how many turns of the screw do I need to level it out? Is it the right temperature, or do I have to change the temperature? So every print you learn something, and they get better over time as your skills improve, as you can recognize what's going wrong fast enough to make a difference and not waste your time or the plastic.
So what was the ultimate goal? Oh, I'm sorry.
Because all of those things you said apply for me. I love the end product. I love the process. I love sharing things with people. You know, these are, like I say, mostly downloaded from the internet when it comes to animal forms. I like to put lights in things. So I experiment with what's the best way to light them, and how am I going to put a battery in them. I've got something in the middle of gestation, shall you say. It's a Ganesh. Do you know the model of Ganesh? So it's a little Ganesh that sits on a stack of batteries. I hold it like a doje. Anybody know what a doje is? Am I saying it right? Dorje? Does it mean anything to anybody? No, huh? D-O-R-G-E, I believe it is, or J-E. It's a Tibetan kind of religious ornament or implement that you incant prayers with and things. You hold it in your hand. Anyhow, there you go, techno-theologian. You print one of those and you can say your prayers and sprinkle holy water on everybody.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but if I understand it right, I mean, what drives you is to a large degree the creativity and what you can sort of play with, and how you can do something different with it and reinvent it a little bit.
And utility. I print things that are useful to me. Containers, holders, like this bottle holder I held up for a second, is 3D printed. The cap itself is the cap from the bottle, but then I've printed out this little thing that I've attached my holder to, my lanyard here, so to speak, lanyard. And it has this 3D printed piece that I just glued onto the cover, so I can carry my water bottle like this, or my coffee bottle, or whatever it is. So it's an implement that helps me. In the kitchen, I have hooks that I hook my plastic bags onto for garbage, made on the 3D printer.
Okay, so one point to address Cheryl's thing, like I do believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that, well, if it's really was mass produced, like you probably can get a cheaper lizard that would produce in a factory that made 10 million of them in China, kind of thing.
Yeah, but they would glow in the dark. And they
right,
and they wouldn't have magnets in them, you see.
Right, so I love the sort of individual creativity part of it. And I would hope for it in the future to also be that it really would be practical and economical to just sort of print something you need instead of having it shipped from China. And that's where I think maybe we're not quite there yet. Like if you add up what it costs, then it's probably not cheaper than having it produced in China, but it's unique and it's like your thing, which is maybe more important than that.
Well, also it's instant. I mean, you don't have to wait for it to come from China. You get it in a moment. No FedEx, no Amazon, nada. In your
What
hand.
does it cost you
Pennies.
to go in the evening to attend this place? Only cost pennies?
Oh, no, the class is free. It's free. People just go
Oh,
there and hang out and share.
Okay.
But to use the equipment sometimes costs money. The 3D printers don't cost anything. You bring your file, they print it out.
So how is
There's
it
one-
financed?
How is it funded? It's part of a school.
Yeah.
Part of a school. So it's called adult education. So they open this up one night a week for adult education. And during the week, I guess they use the equipment in the educational programs of the school.
So quite often that kind of thing is funded either by a school or by a local government. Like here in Toulouse, there's a large Fab Lab, which is a whole building that used to be a factory, which has been donated by the city for this purpose, and they've put a lot of money into it because some of these machines are expensive, but essentially it's provided freely because it's such a cool idea for inspiring people to get creative by themselves, and sometimes people create companies or ventures out of it after having tinkered with it. Oh, a little pink lizard.
So this lizard is got magnets in it. And that's how he stays on your shirt. There's a magnet inside and it's hollow. And the magnet slides around so it can be heads or tails. Anyhow, I'm a single guy. For me, it's about taking up my time, learning things, having fun, entertaining myself. What can I say?
Do you do any sort of dreaming about the greater possibilities that maybe you're not doing in your shop, or that you might do, or else just dream about, printing houses on Mars or whatever,
No.
Oh, okay, all right.
There are people that are doing that though. There are people 3D printing houses and cars and all sorts of stuff. It's amazing.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we want to find out more about where you're at. So that tells us a lot right there. And I can at least sort of sympathize, if not empathize with it. I've done a lot of work in just kind of shop work and all kinds of physical work. And I can appreciate that you just get in there and do it. And sometimes there is a kind of a sense of community with people, like Motorheads and stuff like that. I don't know if that applies either, but
it does. It's
right.
kindred spirits. Again, people are creating different things in different ways with the newest tools. And they're always on the cutting edge since it's a school and they've got a budget for buying all this stuff.
Peter, I have a
Yes.
friend who's totally into 3D printing. And I think she bought a printer and it might have cost around $800. So that's a lot.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah. But she's always taking it apart and tinkering with it and tinkering with the temperature and the resolution and all kinds of things, and literally has to be able to rebuild this thing herself. Do you do that too, or do you just?
I took a class and I built this printer from scratch, much like our dear host has done, or is in the middle of doing. And Fleming, if you'd like, I'm glad to mentor you if you want a little cheerleader or guidance in your build.
Thank you, Peter.
We'll have it done in an afternoon, man, and it'll be hindsight, and you'll be on your way to enjoying your printer. I'd like to see that. So I do take it apart. It does break down. I do replace a motor here and there or a switch here and there. But for the most part, it just keeps chugging along. And I try to keep it busy because I don't have to be there watching it. You watch it for the first layer or two to make sure it's printing out okay. And then you can just forget it and let it finish without attendance.
So it sounds like you're coming at it from sort of an artist's perspective, that it's sort of this would be interesting, or I'm trying to create a certain thing. Sometimes it's useful, has utility, but you like creating and making it take shape, and you have little things lying around that you keep working on or trying to do something different with, like sort of an artist's workshop where you keeps evolving, and it doesn't have to have necessarily utility on its own. Like, does one really need a lizard that you can attach on your shirt? Well, it's fun. I'd like one, but I don't need one.
Well, case in point, I can respond to that directly. I have an idea for something that will save lives. It turns out that people get killed in crosswalks on the order of 5,000 people in Florida alone every 5 years. So if so many people are dying in crosswalks, it made sense to me to make motorists aware of these people going in the crosswalks. And to that end, since most of them are elderly and they have canes, I invented this. And I'm using the 3D printer to make a switch that will enable the people to get the kit, the Senior Saver Cane Kit. Let's see if this is going to work. Yeah, the Senior Saver's Cane Kit will allow a person to be seen at night, and they can attach it to whatever cane they have or their walkers or whatever, and no motorist will hit them. In fact, it'll probably cause so many reactions that the motorist will hit everything else because they'll be looking at this saying, what the fuck is that? Pardon my French.
And they'll be pretty damn cool too.
Yeah, they'll be cool, but you know, you won't get hit because they'll see you coming. So I'm making a little thing that'll fit on a pole, and it'll just press on. It'll have a switch, a battery, a circuit, and the lights that you can attach to your cane. So I'm prototyping that using the 3D printer.
I think you need to trademark that name, Peter, Senior Saver.
What was that?
I think you need to trademark that name, Senior Saver.
Oh, yeah.
That's a
Yeah,
great
that's
name.
good. Yeah.
Reminds me of the bike monkey lights that go on your bike.
Yeah, I got my sister some of those for her birthday just now.
All right, I have two ideas for money makers. First of all, I cannot find a water bottle with a handle that comes on a glass water bottle. I really wish there would be one of those, and you should make them. You should
with a handle. I've seen them.
You know, so I can walk with a handle instead of walk like this. You know. And
oh yeah. Well, that's what my hanging thing is. It's a very simple thing. If you want to email me your address, I'll send you one.
You should actually sell them.
Actually, you know, can sell them, and I'll take a commission.
And then another thing you could make is an EpiPen. Those are very expensive.
What are EpiPens?
Well, for when you have an asthma attack or something, and you have to deliver the adrenaline or whatever it is, epinephrine, whatever it is. Google it.
Make a needle, 3D print a needle?
Well, no, it comes in an automatic plastic container that just, like, you just put it on you and it happens by itself. It's got a spring, some kind of mechanism. Anyway, they're very, very expensive.
Oh.
They don't have to be.
Sounds like an aftermarket, a good market for somebody.
I'm giving it to you.
Yeah, well, I pass. Thank you.
Oh.
I don't have the time, you know. It's about time, ultimately. Marketing. It's why I'm not a shopkeeper. But I would sit in Creativity Cafe after school and entertain the kids with all of this innovative stuff that they might do there.
What do you do during the day, Peter?
I go through piles of paper. I play musical instruments. I design a little electronic things. I'm a photographer. I just got a brand new camera, 3 days old, and I'm wanting to see what it does to make video in stereo audio. So I just hooked up my stereo audio mic and to the camera, and I was about to test it when I got the notice that we're on the air. So I'm a photographer. I go out shooting. I work on my pictures. I go visit mom at the nursing home. I look for love in all the wrong places.
Like where?
Oh, Whole Foods, the library, the supermarket,
Those are good places.
meetup spaces. Well, they're good places, but they haven't worked for me yet, so they must not be the right places.
Well, you just haven't noticed the love. It's there.
Mhm.
It's in all those places.
Oh yeah, love is in all those places, but the resonance is what I'm missing. That's why I go to the creative spaces, because I can resonate with those people. That's why I took a photography course at the only art school around, hoping to make friends with people who are creative.
Mhm.
So do you miss friends in your life then?
Oh, I tremendously miss friends. I'm going on a little vacation in April to San Francisco to not only visit some friends out there, but the area is so stimulating in Palo Alto, Sillywood they call it, where a lot of futurists and innovators and just very creative and inspired people tend to evolve through and adhere to that area.
You know, Peter, they have a lot of Burning Man camps.
Yeah, Burning Man camps, that'd be good. I've never
Maybe
been.
you would find your people there.
Have you been?
What was that?
Have you been to Burning Man?
No, my son goes every year though, and he builds projects, you know, and all that stuff. So you can
Yeah.
find friends, and they're very into tribe, and there's a continuity to it.
True. There might be a clan near me in New Jersey. I'll look into it. It's a good idea.
My friend just joined one in DC. I mean, they're everywhere.
Everywhere.
So that's, I get to think of that too, sort of the networking aspects. I mean, you're doing tons of cool things, mostly by yourself, other than that you go to a maker lab thing once in a while. So
Right.
I'm just makes me think about how, I mean, this should be very interesting to lots of people. And there are lots of other people who either do similar things or would like to, but who don't know how, or who think that's kind of cool, but I couldn't do that because something. So you're sort of a role model for, you can just be creative with what you have and improve your surroundings and be an artist in life and make fun things or useful things, and some of those are useful to other people. And maybe it's not your thing to manufacture things or market them, but for other people it could be. There would be others who could look at one of these things you do and say, well, we could do 10,000 of those that could be manufactured like this, and that would be useful for like your senior saver cane kind of thing. That's cool. And maybe it's not your sort of style or mentality to see it through to production and marketing, but it could be somebody else's thing who maybe aren't so cool as you with inventing it, but who would do the plotting work to get it into the hands of somebody else. So I'm just thinking about this sort of communication or networking that would be necessary for that. Like now here we spent most of an hour with you to try to understand what you're doing, and that's fun. But a lot of the time one doesn't necessarily have the time to do that. I mean, you show up and it's sort of, you usually have a little fun thing going on, and then we go on to some other topic. So I'm
For
just
many
thinking about
years,
what would be helpful in like bringing you more to the world and the world more to you.
I have a solution. I just haven't implemented it. I tried once at the makerspace, but it didn't really fly. I think it needs more time to develop. But I produced something many years ago called Various Media Inc., the Artists Showcase and Networking event. And the idea was that creative people, not only artists, but creative people, would bring slides into a venue, project them on a large screen for an audience that's encouraged to interact by asking questions and having a discussion about what they see on the screen and hear from the artist or the creative person. And in that way, you get turned on to different creative ideas. You meet a new person for socializing after the formal part of the evening, whom you might go up to and form an association. So the event was very, very successful in California. I've yet to implement it here in New Jersey, but it is a good way to attract people who are creative to come together and share their work interactively. Does it make sense?
Peter, is there anything from your past that you think is significant that led you to these interests? Or do you think it was kind of inborn?
I was born an artist scientist with a passion for helping the underdog. So I've done things like KidCast for Peace, Solutions for a Better World. I have 2 domains, creativity.net, creativity.com. I'm an exceptionally creative person, copiously creative. It's a blessing and it's a curse. There's a lot of due diligence when you're creative. You have to learn your craft, you have to practice your craft. And then if you're an audio engineer and a musician, well, that's 2 different sets of tools that you need to have a grip on to express through. And you add that to photography and all of the tools of back end of photography, making the prints, all that requires a lot of time and diligence. If I had a girlfriend, which would be my choice, I would give up half, if not more, of everything that I do to keep myself busy and creative and focus it on the relationship. I'm ready for that.
So is that part of what drives you in a way? Like you're saying, you do bring it up once in a while. Like if you had a relationship, you wouldn't have time to do all these fun creative things, or you would do much less of them?
Much less, yeah. Sure, I could never eliminate what I do to be creative and expressive. That's who I am. But it would be more integrated, more balanced life with a partner.
What do you think you would do with your partner?
Similar things, go on adventures, travel, take pictures, make love. All the ways one might make love, not physically necessarily. Anna's saying something silently.
I think I muted you before, Anna.
Okay. I just wanted to come back to what you were saying about looking for love in the wrong places.
Okay.
What do you think would be the right place?
I think I have to start something and call it in. I think I have to produce my art show, and then it'll unfold naturally like it has in the past. But you can't go looking for love. You know, it'll find you when you're ready, when it's ready. You never know when it's going to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, there's some magic happening here. So I think, you know, if I could find a way, which I have, to bring a lot of people in front of me and me in front of them physically, not online dating or anything like that, then there'd be the greater opportunity for connection. Because that's really what I want, connection, you know.
What I hear you saying is that this love that you're looking for is outside you.
No, that's a different kind of love. There's agape, there's eros. I've got plenty of love inside of me, and I practice it.
Okay.
That's
You're just
wrong.
wanting a partner.
Yeah, companionship.
Okay.
A friend. I even settle for a friend, not even an intimate other.
Doesn't even need to be love.
Yeah, it needs to be love, but it doesn't need to be intimate.
I have a friend who's into all the things you are into, Peter.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure many of us do.
I would love you two to be friends.
Oh, great. Well, connect us up. I'm ready. Where does she live?
In Marion, Indiana.
Indiana.
I know. She did live in Vermont, but recently moved. I tried to hook you two up together before.
Why did she go to Indiana? What's in Indiana?
Her mother's ailing.
Oh, that'll do it. That's
Well,
why I'm in New Jersey.
That's why you're in New Jersey, yeah.
Well, tell her to show up on Zoom on Wednesday. Is that such a funny?
I mean, I'll mention it. So you paint too? Did I miss that?
I paint too. Yep. I was just doodling in my doodle book earlier. I'll get you my doodle book. Here's my doodle book. This has airbrush art.
Wow.
These are puddle people, models for an animation, puddle people.
Peter, did you ever fall in love?
Sure.
And what happened?
Fell out of love.
What did you say about animation?
Yeah, that these are drawings. Some of these drawings are roots for animation. Either I'll rephotograph them or draw them in the computer. But I've got a concept for an animation called puddle people, like heads across the water. The puddle people are real when they get to land, but then there's, like in the sea, when they cross from US to Europe or vice versa, they become heads above the water, just these puddles of people that meld and blend in the ocean and then pop up on the other side. I didn't do this, but I'm coloring it in.
Peter, do you think there's anything that you need to do to prepare for being in a relationship?
I could probably clean the house a little bit better than I have.
I'm talking about you as a person more than your environment.
No, I'm ready. Thank you very much. I'm
So
totally.
you don't think that you need to change or become any different?
No, I'm happy with who I am. Very content. I could only get
Do you
better.
think that could put people off?
It puts a lot of people off because I'm, different, shall we say.
What would this partner or companion be like, Peter? What is it that you'd be, when you imagine them, do you have any kind of...
Well, I can imagine physical characteristics. The main thing is that there's a flow. There's the interaction that's mindless and just natural. There's a give and take. There's a rapport. There's an emotional rapport. There's a mental rapport. There's a resonance. We see each other's being and recognize that.
Sounds like she needs to be a good cleaner too.
I'm a good cleaner, but I'm lazy.
So how would it feel to have that person in your life? What would that bring to you?
Oh, liberation. I'd have a partner to go play with. Wouldn't have to go out looking for love. It would be there. Totally.
You could get a bot.
Time to have a partner.
Yeah, you can build your perfect partner in your workshop.
Right.
I'll put it in my 3D printer and I'll say prayers. Like voodoo,
You've got all the physical characteristics. You know what you want.
Yeah.
She'll have LEDs in all the right places.
That's right.
Like we.
Well, she'll either be a lot like me or she'll be the things that I'm missing that I'm not, that she loves to do.
What are the things that you're missing?
What am I missing?
Mm-hmm.
I tend to be a hermit. So she'd be the connector. She'd be the one that goes out and finds new and interesting people to connect with.
My friend is like that.
I think women in general are better at that than men are.
You pointed out that I think that it's not entirely under your control. Maybe you can try to set up conditions to generate emergent phenomena, but you just don't really know for sure what's going to happen and who you're going to meet and what it's going to do.
Well, that's what I was talking about with this art show that I used to produce, that has produced girlfriends as well. But it's an entertaining thing for the community at large, both art lovers and people that are clueless about art, but they want something to do on a weekend night or a weekday night. And then they'll go and they'll network, because it's about networking and about education, and it's entertaining. So I'm looking for a venue to start it up again. There's a room in the library right around the corner that has a video projector in the ceiling and a big screen. It's an intimate space, but it's enough to start. So I'm going to write a proposal. It's after I get through this stack of papers, I'll get to it eventually, and see if the library will give me the space to or help me promote it. I need some way to promote it. That's the thing. There used to be free papers in California that I could call in audiences and call artists with. Here there's Craigslist, with not too many free rags or anything to publicize. So that's part of it as well.
What are the papers that you have waiting to be read, Peter? Are they academic papers or?
No, it's all bureaucracy, like, health insurance stuff and
Okay.
payments that are due for registrations and storage space, and, the regular mundane of life.
What does it feel like to have all this attention focused on you?
I'm an Aries. I like it. I'm used to being in front of the camera as well as in back of the camera. So
Is it in some way helpful? Like we ask questions and stuff, and does that somehow move it forward for you, or help you, or give you some more insight about yourself, or something?
no, it might help clarify agendas a little bit. I like the attention. It's a curious thing to have everybody focused on me. But
In what way has it clarified agendas?
Oh, just because I know that I have to get out of the house, go through this paperwork, and make something happen, or it's not going to happen in terms of socializing. Because all the times I go to the library, all the times I go to the market, I never meet anybody, even though that's my intention there. So it's not the right format. It's hard to meet people, strangers.
That's interesting.
What feels hard about it?
I don't know. When's the last time you walked up to a stranger and interacted with them? Talking to the men. Women have an easier way of doing it. But I think, for me at least, I'm stuck. I find it, what to say, how to say it, when to say it, should I say it?
Okay. Have you tried saying just that?
No.
That would help.
How so? What would you say?
Well, I can only, of course, take myself as an example, but I try to be who I am in the moment, and I practice that, and I'm getting better. And if you think you see somebody who's interesting, you could approach this person and say, I think you're interesting.
Yeah, you'd have to find something to comment on to begin.
No, you don't. No, you don't have to do anything. You just be yourself. That's what I'm suggesting.
Well, you could say, look, I find it really hard. Just what you said just now. I really don't know what to say, but I'd really like to connect with you, or something like that. But admit, what you're feeling about how difficult it is.
Uh-huh. That's a good approach. I like that.
Thank you, Anna. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
So that one's done.
I'll
next?
report next week, and we'll see if it's been helpful.
We'll get a progress report next time. Yeah.
Progress report. Cheryl, you said you had a friend I get along with in Indiana. Make sure she shows up next week. We'll see if there's any serendipity across the cyber waves.
I was going to suggest that maybe you join a meetup group for walking, because a lot of talking happens while you're walking.
That would be good. I am always looking at meetup groups, but usually for music, for expression, for jam buddies, because that would be my ultimate pleasure, more than walking, is to have a musician friend that likes to get together regularly and jam. that would provide a great outlet and a friendship for me. So that's kind of where I'm looking on those spaces. But I hear you. Meetups, walking meetups. They're hiking meetups. Usually I don't go for hiking meetups because they take 4 hours and they go up in the mountains. I got a physical challenge, so I can't really be out there walking for 4 hours.
What's your physical challenge?
Back issues.
You don't hike enough.
No, I don't hike enough. It's true, but that's not why. Actually, I like to. When I was on Maui, I loved to walk. But in New Jersey, I don't do too much walking. I stay in, I deal with my creative stuff, go to the library, go to the market. When it's nice out, it's cold here now, I go to nature spaces. But, you know, I've never encountered anybody in the nature spaces. I would think other people would be there walking around, taking pictures, enjoying the nature, but very few and far between. I think it's New Jersey.
I think that would be a difficult place to encounter because it's so isolated. A woman might feel a bit nervous about a man approaching her in that sort of space. It's much better to do it like in a cafe or a market or somewhere where there's a lot of people.
Well, if it's a cafe and there's a single woman hanging out there, then more than likely she'd be open to that communication.
Yeah.
The supermarket is a super place.
My eyes are always open in the supermarket. But then again, attraction begins visually. You don't know who the person is, but that's the front end. You know, you can only go by the vibe and if they meet your criteria visually without any sense of what's inside the cover of the book. And sometimes,
maybe you should revise your criteria.
Well, I can't do that because I know what I like.
What do you like?
Petite, intelligent, beautiful, outgoing.
What do you mean you can't do that?
Colorful.
You mean you...
Yeah, be creative, experiment more.
Yeah. Try and go with somebody who's the opposite of your criteria and just see what happens. Just as an experiment.
I like to experiment.
Okay. Report next week.
Yes, you'll have one.
Cool. That's so have we understood what Peter's really saying? Like how's this going?
I feel really privileged to be given that kind of insight into one of you. You know, I mean, I'm not here so often, but you see some familiar faces and know a little bit about somebody, but to be shown, you know, some of the inner parts of someone, I think that's a real privilege. So thank you, Peter, for sharing all that you have.
Well, thank you for appreciating that. Artists tend to live publicly. If you put the H in my name and search for me on Google, you'd be surprised. Peter H. Rosen. It's an invitation.
Is it? Okay.
Parentheses. Don't forget the parentheses.
Where's the parenthesis?
Open parentheses, Peter H. Rosen, close parentheses.
Okay, let's all do that now.
Let's all Google now. Da, 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 da. Let's write a song. Let's go Googling. I like to oogle when I Google at all the pretty faces.
So now I've liked to this sort of diving deep into one person. We've tried it a little bit before, but this has maybe worked better. In part, I think, because the intention was to sort of really try to get this person. So it's not just we're paying attention to you, but we're trying to understand, kind of thing. That's part of what works for me. So we end up a little wiser.
I wonder, Peter, how much you think that we've really got to know you.
I think only you could answer that. I've shared quite a lot of intimate stuff about myself.
Okay.
Peter, do you think you appreciate the same things in the art world, in the world around you, as you appreciate them about you? You know, like, are you into other people's art like you're into yours? Are you into that kind of thing?
I'm not. I'm definitely guilty of not being into other people's art. I'm so, how shall I say, preoccupied with my own agendas and my own talents and harnessing them, that I have very little bandwidth for other people's art, unless it directly impinges on mine and we're collaborating in some way. But I've got a full plate. I'm overwhelmed more often than not. So I just go lie down and escape. That's why this pile of papers is sitting here. What do you think about that?
What could we have done more for you, Peter, to have, you meant, I think it was in response to Anna's question or something that you said yourself, but that certain things have become more clear, or you'd got some more clarity. How could we have supported that a bit more?
Oh, I don't know. I wasn't looking for support. I wasn't even looking for the attention. I just showed up and you picked on me.
You kind of volunteered a little bit, but we picked you.
I did. I opened the door, I admit it. But I'm an Aries. That's what Aries do. I'm used to being in that position where I'm first doing things.
But it's a good question for me. What is it, Anna or Harry? I forgot who said it. Like, did we learn something new, or did you learn something new, or did you sort of give us the story of your life currently that you would give to whoever paid attention to you for 50 minutes or an hour?
I like what Harry said about just going into the supermarket and, being verbal about, hey, I think you're attractive or whatever. I don't know what to say, but hi.
I think I love you. Yep.
I think I love you. Yes.
I would leave out the I think you're attractive bit.
Let's go out to California, where the real people live.
So what
Ron,
can... Yeah, go ahead.
Ron, I'm wondering, I know a guy named Michael Scroggins. Are you a Scroggin or a Scroggins?
Scroggin.
No relation.
But he's one of the Scroggins.
Yeah. Scroggins is.
So who is everybody here? What do you all do for livelihoods? Can I ask a question and turn it around a little bit? Find out who my voyeurs are?
In the last couple of minutes, sure.
2 minutes to go.
You're testing your supermarket conversation, aren't you?
So tell me, who are you guys?
I'm Anna. I live in UK and I'm retired.
Retired from what?
From being a child psychotherapist.
I thought so. Okay.
Somebody else, come on.
Then who do you think I am?
Harry, I think you're an adventurer that takes trips quite frequently.
I hardly leave the house.
Oh, we're partners in that crime then. What do you do? What's your calling in the world?
You're muted, Harry.
Do you have a calling, Harry? Do you have a calling in the world?
Yes. Well, I was born in panic. I try to understand the world, and I do that by and I'm a daydreamer, so I try to draw what I see, and I made my living out of that. Is that a calling? I hope I want the world to be a better place, so I can stop working.
Does that make you an artist? Drawing?
I don't regard myself an artist. Many other people do.
What about you, Cheryl?
I'm from Chicago, and I'm too complex for 30 seconds.
It kind of takes an hour to get somebody, huh?
But I will tell you, I am a little bit of an artist. I painted the wall behind me. I made that cabinet. I made this couch. I make a lot of things.
So you're a maker,
I never thought of it that way.
creator, maker. You should check out the
Luna
Makerspace.
hasn't said anything. Can we ask Luna just to say who she is and
Yeah,
That-
Laura.
what she
What's
does?
Laura,
with
it
you?
is, yeah.
Laura, sorry.
You don't have to, but if you feel like it, we have you muted, I think. Hold on a second. There you go. Now it should work.
Hello, I'm Laura. I'm born in Southern California, living in Arizona, reinventing my life right now after living in Egypt, being married and divorced from an Egyptian back here in the US. Currently have 3 streams of income, maybe thinking about adding a 4th. So I do a bunch of different stuff, but I appreciate participating in this experiment since it's my first time. So I was kind of just listening and seeing what you guys are all doing and enjoying the journey. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Ron, you're next on my screen.
I play guitar and teach guitar and been involved pretty heavily in music throughout most of my life. And but I've done a lot of other things as well.
Lucy?
Like Cheryl, I don't want to give a 30-second summary, but most of my time right now is spent running a charity that uses sport and movement as a tool for social change and personal change, I guess, also.
Great.
So trying to make the world a better place using sport and adventure sport and dance and that kind of thing.
Good work. Good work if you can get it.
Fleming,
Need it.
what do you do?
What do I do? I'm a computer programmer. I'm sometimes a therapist. I like starting experiments or movements, if I can, of various kinds towards making the world a better place. And this is sort of one of them. I rarely succeed in making any kind of a living on the things I really care about, but I would like to at some point. But I like starting activities without any really clear outcome or purpose, a little bit open-ended, like this here. So this is something that I do. Anyway, who we're missing? Did we do all of us?
Yeah, I think we
Yeah.
I think we
did.
did. Okay, so just before we end, maybe just a few words on concluding how did this work as an experiment. We focused on one person to try to really get what Peter was saying. How do you think this worked as an experiment? Any of you?
I really enjoyed it. I like the focus on one person. And I have a feeling that it could add to conversations then when it's about a topic or all of the group is involved. Knowing somebody a little bit better, I feel will be something very useful for me at least.
I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. At the beginning, it felt like it was sort of, I didn't quite trust that it was going to happen, but actually I felt it did. Somehow brought us all closer together in some way, even though we were focusing on one person. So yeah, it worked somehow.
Yeah, I must admit, I was a little worried about whether it was going to work as well. Like I was afraid maybe Peter would get bored and leave, and then it was no longer like about him or something. But he didn't. It became quite useful and interesting to get to know Peter better.
I wonder what it would be like if we were to focus on some other person next time.
Mhm.
If the flow would be similar, entertaining, stagnant, what?
It would be endless. My comment is this shirt.
Silence is death.
Silence. Equals- we have to
Very
be
good.
known. We have to be known a little bit what we think. I wore it for today. I just got it in DC. It's from the Gorilla Girls, who are artists. So I was
I
happy to
went-
know Peter, and he was
I
not.
went to this Sunday service so I could get this shirt.
Ah, that'll do it.
Cool. All right. Excellent. So any other closing remark before we end off for today? I don't know what we're going to do next. Certainly one idea is we could continue focusing on other people. Personally, I like changing the game every time, so that would be a little bit too much the same, but somehow finding a way of getting to know other people in other ways could certainly be interesting.
Hey, Ron, I'm looking for a jam buddy. Where do you live?
Chicago.
Too far. We could try to to hook up FaceTime. Do you have Apple gear?
Apple what?
Apple equipment? Do you Apple or Android on your technology?
I'm on a laptop. My phone is not smart,
I see.
so it's everything I do like this is on the it is a Mac. It's a laptop.
Oh, that's good, Mac. So we might be able to do FaceTime jamming.
Well, boy, that opens up a can of worms. About that I have experimented with some of that, and it's tricky because of the latency in the network.
We once did an experiment here, which Ron helped with, which was explored afterwards, where we tried to. What were we trying to do? Were we singing a song or something? We were trying to do something in the same rhythm together, like all of us, and it was rather difficult because there's a delay. But that got us off in sort of a technical discussion and experiments on if we did it slowly, if there was some kind of, we were drumming. That's what we were doing. We were trying to drum, and that became very noisy. But if we did it slowly, you could drum, and even if you're a little out of sync, you could still match the other people. But there are all sorts of difficulties in it. But it's a fun experiment.
Yeah, it was.
So yeah, if you guys feel like exploring that, then we would be happy to hear the outcome.
I was just curious. What if we were to flash hands and see if they're at the same time? If we could set up a rhythm. I'm trying to stay on rhythm, whether I see you doing it or not. I see a little synchronicity, but I can't tell if it's in sync or if everybody's responding.
We need a conductor.
Well, that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to conduct you.
So yeah, you can see the difficulty. It can work if everybody's following one person, which we've tried that too. That was another, we had a series of experiments which were physically trying to mirror another person. That was lots of fun, where we would take turns where one person would move slowly and then the other people would do the same thing. That was difficult too, but the idea being to practice paying attention to where's the movement coming from, who's originating it, are you matching or not matching? So but certainly more variations of that theme could happen. It's fun, but there are difficulties technically in making some of it work. Anyway, enough fun for now. Thank you all for coming. It's been swell. Good to see you. Hope to see some of you again another time for another interesting experiment. Thank you for being here. And Peter, thank you for being our friendly target this time.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Hello.
All right.
Hello.